Hi, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Our podcast is all about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Okay.
Cool. So first of all, why don't you just tell me about where you grew up and how you got into music?
Yeah. So I grew up in Southeast London. I'm from an area called Catford. Um, and I was actually born in Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was born in Nigeria. I came to London at the age of 4. And music was just always something I was like super passionate about. And I started out in my church choir as
Okay.
a prostitute. Yeah, I was raised in the church. I started singing in the church choir from about the age of 10.
hmm
Um, and then got into like different bands when I was in school and stuff. But it's not until I graduated from college, um, I then decided to make my first ever mixtape.
hmm
And that was just beats that I ripped from like YouTube. It wasn't very legal. Beats that I ripped from online, and then I put it on SoundCloud and just like started a buzz out of nowhere, and it just kind of grew. And yeah,
Wow.
now.
Have you always been a singer? Do you play an instrument?
I don't, because my mum got me keyboard lessons. The teacher was so horrible. I couldn't bear going to the classes anymore. Yeah.
It's funny. Well, okay, so you singing, you were in the choir. Then tell me about the bands that you joined and formed.
So yeah, both are I find embarrassing, but one more so than the other. Um, so the first band I was in, we called it NFC, which is a really terrible name. Um, and it was just like it was me and a group of boys from my school when we were about 13 up until the age of about 16. And one of whom actually I still work with now. His
Oh
name's
wow.
Emily. He's an incredible songwriter and artist, and he's like written for the likes of like Beyonce, Little
Oh
Mix.
wow.
Like, yeah, he's incredible. So we were in the group together. It was me, him, his brother, and other guys that went to our school, and we used to make songs in in his dad's garage. Like, it was so makeshift, but it worked. And I would say that was my first kind of time really learning how to songwrite, because Emanike was just so great at it. So he kind of taught me. And then I was in another band from the age of like 16 to 18, which is the more embarrassing one. Mainly because I love all genres of music, but
uh-huh.
I was asked to be in an all-female rock band, which
Okay.
obviously now as an R&B artist makes completely no sense. But
Right.
at the time there was this guy. He said he was like trying to launch like the biggest girl group and something so edgy and different. And like I said, I appreciate all genres, and so I saw it as an opportunity to kind of like break through. So I was like, why not? I'll be the lead singer
Right.
in your band. um,
Sure.
but it was just like an absolute disaster.
Well, how did this guy find you and contact you?
So it's a bit strange, actually. He kind of went like lurking around churches, because
That's weird.
he was looking for a lead singer with like a big voice, like a big belting voice, a big gospel voice. And so one of my friends met him at her church. She said he was looking for a lead singer or people to be in a band. And my friend just always gasses up about me. And so she was like, oh, I know someone, she's an incredible singer, blah, 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 and connected us. And like I come from quite a strict family, a strict home. So he had to come to my house and like meet my mum. My mum had to vet him, make sure that I was going to be in like safe hands at 16 with this like random guy that was just chilling outside churches with young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously he came over and your mom was okay for you to work with this guy.
Yeah, she was okay as long as it didn't distract from my education.
hmm
And I'm the sort of I was the sort of child that like I tell mom everything. So if anything weird or whatever was going on, I would have been like, this guy's a weirdo. So I think she felt safe knowing that I'm a loudmouth.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, okay, so you're 16 and he kind of curated this band. Did you know the rest of the people in it, or is that kind of his?
No. So he literally like curated the whole band, found all of us from different places. We even shot like a music video, which I will never ever share with anybody. Just before, let me beat you to the gun. Yeah, we shot a music video. Like we even went to we like traveled to like have a photo shoot. It was my first like feeling of being an artist, but it was just so unknown to me. I didn't really know what was going on. Like, oh, okay, we're shooting a music video. Oh, okay, I stand in front of the camera and like sing and perform and stuff, or traveling to Malta to have a like photo shoot. But do you know what? It just didn't work out because I think it was nobody else's dream but his. Like he was really obsessed with the whole idea of having like an all-female, an all-black female as well, like rock band, and he was obsessed with it. And he wanted like ultimate control. He wanted to write all the songs. It was a really weird, like, it was a weird introduction.
Yeah, I'll say. Wow.
Yeah, and I think for me, where I said I can't do this anymore is because I didn't have any sort of creative input, like, because I wasn't writing the songs. He wanted us to sing the songs exactly as they were written, and I never saw myself becoming that sort of artist. So yeah, at 18 I just stepped back.
Yeah, wow. So you didn't have pretty much any control. He wrote everything and just told you, okay, sing this.
Yeah, he wrote everything, and like the whole creative was his idea, like what we would wear. It was, I think, his weird, like, I don't know, fantasy.
Right. Yeah, that is strange. Did you guys ever play a show or anything, or was it just kind of like?
Yeah, we played some shows, which actually I would say was good practice for me, like coming up, because I was so young and I didn't know anything about the music industry. But I used to perform shows at a place in Camden, which is in North London. Really known for its like music and like rock and roll style as well. At a place called the Blues Cafe. And people you just used to get up and sing if they had a guitar or whatever. So we would get up and we would play like every Sunday night.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And that's and you always played the same place?
Yeah, we always played the same place, and I think people like, we actually grew a fan base from there, and people like came looking forward to hearing us, and the feedback was always like incredible. And at I think 16, being in a bar,
right, yeah,
that was always like such an experience for me, especially because I grew up as quite a sheltered like church girl. So being 16 and being in this like rock and roll bar where people are like drinking and smoking was all like dangerous to me. But yeah, we would get on stage and we would we'd perform. We do like some covers and do our own songs that our manager had written for us. But yeah, like I think that experience was so great for me in retrospect, because it's made me really comfortable with performing. And I think when I actually then did break into the industry, a lot of people were surprised by how comfortable I was on stage as a really new artist. But it's just because like at such a young age, I was on stage in front of adults and learning how to win a crowd over. Yeah.
Wow. And then what you said that you were in this band until you were 18?
Yes, I was in it for 2 years. Yeah, and then that's when I went to university, and I just decided it wasn't for me because I didn't write the songs, and also like as much as I appreciate rock music, I never saw myself becoming like a rock star.
Rock singer. Yeah. So you went to school right after the band kind of ended. Went to university. Yeah. And did you go to study songwriting?
No, I studied English. I studied English literature, and that for me was kind of like not a cop out, but like something that I actually did law for a year.
Oh wow!
Like fuck this. So I don't even sorry.
No, you can cuss. It's fine.
Law for a year, and I was like, this is shit. Like, I think just because like in my head I had this idea that being a lawyer was gonna be like, I don't know if you remember Ally McBeal.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was be like that, or like, I don't know, Lord, like, step in the courtroom, and it's just like dramatic, and it was
Sure.
like just boring. So after my first taste of that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to at least do something I care about if it's gonna be so like hard and like challenging. And I always loved English. It was my favorite subject at school, and I was always like an avid reader when I was growing up, and writer as well, because I started writing music. And so I saw it as like studying English literature was something I loved, knew I would be good at, and could also use it to like practice my songwriting and kill time while I figure out how I'm gonna become a singer.
Yeah. So while there, is that when you started putting together your solo project?
Yeah. So it wasn't until my final year though, because I just didn't know how to break into the industry. Like so many people, I would say it's only been in the last
It's okay.
only been in the last like I'm gonna say 3 years. It's only been in the last like 3 years maybe that we've seen like an influx of artists who have found their way into the industry like independently via like social media, like whether it's just like YouTube or SoundCloud, like maybe the last 3-4 years. Prior to that, I feel like a lot of people in the industry, they were discovered. You have to wait to be discovered somehow, or find some lucky break, go to some audition that, I don't know, Sony Records are trying to put together something or whatever. And that's how people broke into the industry. So like it was at a time where I didn't know how to be discovered. And so until my final year of university, I said, you know what, I was on SoundCloud all the time, listening to just undiscovered artists, like all these cool, different alternative artists. And I thought, well, I can do this as well. Like, I just have to find a way how to record this music, get it on SoundCloud, and get it in front of people who could give me opportunities. And so I got these beats and I spent time writing the songs. And then I found an engineer who would let me record at his studio, which actually my co-collaborator and friend, of course, like Stormzy, connected me to. We met at a time when he was still like bubbling. And so, yeah, so he introduced me to the engineer, and that's how I recorded my songs and like put them online. And surprisingly, like, I don't know how people found it till this day. I don't know how people found my SoundCloud. I had like record labels in my inbox. I don't know where they found me.
Wow.
I think that's when I found out, do you know what? Like, people are really on the search. Like, the scouts at the label, they're doing their damn thing. Yeah.
Okay, so you put these songs up, and you said you don't know how they found you. Were they just getting a lot of plays?
Yeah, like, so at that time, being completely like nobody basically, and putting out my songs, and I think it was in like 2 weeks I got like 500 plays. I was really shocked. I was like,
wow,
that's insane, because I literally only sent it to my like 20 friends. So I didn't expect more than 2 plays. I even expected less than. It's like, were my friends even gonna listen to it? I don't know.
right.
So yeah, like getting 500 plays was like crazy to me. And then I started being invited to perform at places. And at that time as well, I was kind of like trying to get into a certain circuit. Like there was a bubbling circuit in East London of performers that would just go to perform at these live events. And I just started like showing up and just getting up and performing as well, and kind of networking, I guess, which is something that I think took a lot of courage to do. I don't know if I'll be able to do it now, just start mingling with people I didn't know. But yeah, and that got me just in a certain space of people. And I started doing shows that I think scouts started coming to. And so my name started bubbling a little bit. And then I got a manager as well.
And was that just off of SoundCloud? You got the manager as well? Wow.
Yeah. I just had how I found my manager was crazy, because I had so many random people in my inbox saying, can I manage you? Or do you want to come into our record label and have a chat or whatever? And it was really overwhelming. But at the same time, I thought all of it was fake. I was like, oh, someone's having me on.
Right.
someone's trying to mess with my head, man. Like, what the hell is this? Obviously not anyone from record labels. Like, I aired so many record label messages.
That's so crazy.
And to be honest, I didn't have a manager, so I wouldn't have known how to even navigate those anyway. I probably would have signed the first thing someone put in front of me.
Right.
But yeah, so I had this guy in my inbox and he said he wanted to manage me. So I met, there were a couple people. So I met and spoke to like 3 guys that I thought I was interested in just hearing from. And my manager, who I went with at the end of the day, honestly, do you know what's crazy is he didn't have like accolades and didn't give me a list of all his,
like his, yeah, like some crazy resume that anything, yeah,
nothing at all. But he just seemed so passionate and really into my music and really saw potential in me. And I think that for me was everything. Like speaking to somebody that didn't want to change what I was doing and just said, like, just give me a chance, like no strings attached. Let's just see what I can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm someone who I kind of just go off my instincts. I don't know if that's the best thing all the time, but I just, if something feels right, I go for it. If it feels wrong, I don't. And so there was someone else who had like a resume and said he could do this and do that and blah, blah, blah. But for me, I just liked how sold on the music he was. And actually, he told me he found me because a friend of his had created, I don't know, some sort of software that allowed him to track like rising songs or rising artists who are like relatively unknown. So people who are like garnering plays on like a SoundCloud that aren't, you know, a huge star or anything like that. So, and he said that my name kept coming up, like my songs kept like rising and rising. So he reached out and yeah, I just liked his attention to tell and stuff. And so
yeah. Wow, that's crazy. It's wild to think now that you know, you're like the amount of people that are following you and listening is so like just black and white. It's like, here's the number of songs or streams that you've had on this one song. Whereas before it's like, oh, we're going to develop this band and we're going to put them on tour or do that. Now it's like, oh, she's like rising up in the SoundCloud thing. And like that, it's just crazy that that's kind of how the world's navigated as far as the record industry goes now.
Crazy. I'm sure like that kind of software exists even more so now because people want to find like now the way record labels move is they want to find people who already have traction without them. So yeah, that's changed a lot.
Right. Yeah. Like they want to find somebody that's already kind of doing something and they can see it in real time. Like there's no BSing the fact that your song has X amount of plays on Spotify, you know?
It's so exposing. I don't know how I feel about that though. Like, I think as an artist, it's great to be able to see your growth and to know what's going on, especially if you're someone like me who I like to like be aware of everything. But then I think like the whole like numbers culture can be really, I think, like deflating for people and also can create like expectations of immediate results, you know, where like before back in the day, like I think 1 million views was mad. Do you know what I mean? Even back in the day, like literally as I'm saying, like 3 years ago, like 1 million views was like, oh my God.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
It's still like a relatively like dope thing, but now when you see people with like tens of millions of views, hundreds of millions of views, people want to reach that. And I think comparing yourself to those sort of numbers when you're still growing isn't healthy, and it doesn't allow, I think also like doesn't allow for people to just focus on someone's music. Like let's say a record label, for instance, is looking at a new artist, maybe they want to sign them or whatever, and instead of really taking in the song or their songs and where they could go, they're looking at where they are now. Like, oh, okay,
right,
it's only had like 50,000 views. Maybe we need to like let them grow more by themselves or whatever. That's the culture now.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Okay, well, so then this manager that you have, and does he get you a record contract? Like what happens from there? Do you put a record out?
So he gets me in the studio and I start doing what I guess is my first real studio sessions. So I had just graduated from university, and I was like then put into studio sessions, and so I was going to work. I've got a full-time job, and I was going to work in the daytime, and then in the evening going to the studio and whatever session he would put me in, and I was just learning how to write songs. Like I was not knowing what I was doing, I was just doing it. I was with different people every evening, or some people I worked more regularly with, and on the weekends, and just putting the work in and making music, not knowing what would happen next. And then he said, okay, cool, like, let's put together an EP. Didn't even know what an EP was.
Sure, yeah.
Put together an EP, and we'll do like a press shoot to get nice pictures for you. And then I shot my first music video.
How was that? Was that kind of a wild experience?
That was a crazy experience, but just mad. Like, I've never felt something so natural to me. Like for someone who hadn't done that before, I think I should have been like more confused and more like shy and scared, you know, just like curious or whatever. But it just felt really natural to me. Like as soon as the director's like, okay, cool, I just need you to like, you know, just perform to the camera, whatever, blah, 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 baby or girls. I was like, right, cool, got it. Like, and I'm switched on, and it was a shoot that turned around so quickly. And I think that's just because I just felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. So yeah, but it was such an incredible experience to be shooting my first music video, and me being like, oh my God, wow, like this is gonna look sick. And I'm doing what I used to watch on MTV. I don't know if you ever saw like the MTV behind the video, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Where I see, like Destiny's Child, when they're getting their hair done, and they're like shooting this thing and that thing, and then they're like, oh, we've been shooting for like 15 hours. And then I was shooting for like 15 hours. It all felt like
yeah. That's awesome though. Wow. And were you playing shows too, or
So at that point, I literally hadn't released like the EP. I was still in the like stages of finishing it and stuff. And those small shows I had been doing off the back of my mixtape, we kind of slowed down because I think my manager really wanted to like cultivate an audience for me before I went out there and started being in spaces where people could see me, like industry people. And so then when I put out that first video, then I slowly started doing shows, and I was doing like, there's certain like hipster crowds, like tastemaker crowds in London. I was doing those sort of shows like at Ace Hotel and stuff. And I remember just being so gassed about making my first like bits of money from a show, you know, like £100. When I got £500 for a show, I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I've made it.
I've literally made it, like crazy. So yeah, and that was such a fun time of just growing and doing what I didn't know what I was doing, but just going with the flow.
Yeah, for sure. And then from there, you attracted the attention of Island Records at one point, right? Because you released Dirt. Was that the first?
Yeah, so that was my first EP, Dirt. I released Dirt. And do you know, from then, so I was independent when I released Dirt. And that gained so much traction, especially with, I would say, my biggest song, My Hood with Stormzy. That just gained so much attention that I had like multiple labels like wanting to have conversations and sign me.
That must have been pretty cool to have all that. Yeah, kind of be in that spotlight.
It was cool, but I think I also was really like, I don't know, apprehensive. I've always from a young age been somebody who I like to take calculated risks. Like I like to just jump into anything. And I think like signing a record deal sounded like such a big thing to me. I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. So I didn't sign a record deal for quite a while. I didn't sign a record deal till 2 years after I released Dirt. And I think I was also just enjoying the luxuries of being an independent artist, of like making my own decisions and like, oh, you want to drop a video tomorrow? Drop the video tomorrow. Like, you know, there's not multiple opinions and things don't take as long to come out or tide over and stuff. And yeah, and then it got to the point where I said, you know what, the sort of artist I've always wanted to be is an international one. And I want to be able to like travel and record and whatever and not think about how I'm spending my own money on reinvesting, because at that point I had only signed a publishing deal, and it was the publishing deal that allowed me to even be independent. So obviously, like financially, that helped me, but I also was reinvesting that into my career by using that money to like pay for like a publicist, pay for a radio plugger and all of that, whilst being independent. And then I signed my record deal 2 years later with Island Records. And it's funny because it was the president who signed me, who's now president of Island Records US, Darkest Beast. And Darkest is such a great guy. When I first met him was actually when I released that mixtape.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when I first released that mixtape, I had nothing else out. And a scout, or A&R, called Benny Scars, asked to meet up with me and my manager, and he brought Darkest into the room and had shown him my music. And at that point, Darkest was interested, but he knew that I was in a space of like wanting to stay independent and not being ready to sign yet, and me kind of just being fresh eyes to everything. And so he told me, do you know what, like, go do your thing independently. He gave me a small investment, like no strings attached, to be like, do this, do your first video, blah, 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 sort yourself out. But just like, when you're ready to sign a record deal, I want to be one of the first people you speak to. And I kept to that promise. So when I was ready and I felt like, okay, I want to sign a record deal and take things to another level, I met up with Darkest and I spoke to some other people as well. And it just so happened that happened to be the right home for me.
That's very cool. And when you went to Island, was it much, you said you were kind of apprehensive about taking that next step, but you signed the deal. Obviously, they had offered you something that was intriguing enough to you. And then from there, did they push you to the next level? Like, what did they help you do?
Yeah, like they gave me a lot of money. And no, for me, to be honest, actually, the reason why I signed there was because I think as an artist, of course, like financially, people always want like the biggest deal ever. Fuck the pressure. Like, I don't care. I just need to look after myself, my family, and all of that stuff. But like, outside of that, I think the other most important thing really is like the belief and knowing that the home you're into, they believe in your music, they love your music, they know the type of artist you are, and they're focused on committing to you. And that was what I felt at that time. And I would say it's definitely been a journey, because I think a lot of people have this belief that when you sign a record deal, they kind of swoop in and change your life. Like, they swoop in, put loads of money into everything, and your life just changed like overnight or whatever. But actually, I would say that you have to continue behaving like an independent artist in terms of like your grind and your hustle. Like, I would say you have to put in the time continuously to go to the studio, to make your own connections, to connect with other artists, figure out how to continue creating opportunities for yourself and coming up with the creative ideas as well. Like, someone isn't going to come, like back in the day, maybe they would, I don't know, but someone isn't going to come and tell you, this is what you're going to do, this is how you should do it. Or if they do, maybe they signed you as that sort of artist, like to mold, but for the most part, you're the person who should be coming up with the creative and with the ideas, and continue hustling like you are still independent, really, because I would say the hard work actually gets a bit harder once you're signed. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's more money to make a big video or this or that or whatever, but like you have to have the graft to be able to like fly to this place and do the whole thing of gens with new people all over again, and just graft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of artists that have talked about that, signing the deal, where a lot of people think that you're going to sign this record contract and then you're going to have all this money and you're going to, videos and all that. But in reality, like, it's almost like you're just getting a seat at the table. Like, you're now on the big kids table. Now, what are you going to do about it? Kind of
Yeah,
thing. Because they're
100%.
not just going to go, oh, and then here's this #1 hit song that we wrote for you. And they're not going to hold your hand through the whole thing.
This is it. This is actually it. Like, yeah, they're not gonna have a #1 hit waiting for you right there.
Right. It's
Even if they do, like, it takes work to get to that place in your life where like Sia wants to give you one of her #1 hits.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
They're not just going to be handing those out to random people.
Yeah.
So you've been putting out some new music.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yes, I've been putting out new music. I released my first single from my debut album.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about. It's a new sound for those who have grown with me from 2016. It's a new sound, and it's more trappy. It's more, I would say it's R&B and hip hop mixed into one. Like, I'm a huge Mary J. Blige fan.
Mm-hmm.
What I loved about her is that she sat in a space of R&B, hip hop, and soul,
Mm-hmm.
where people like respect her vocal ability, but her writing ability and how it really merged with hip hop, and that's why I think she had a female and male audience, and
Mm-hmm.
I've got that same makeup of audience where I have like men and female listeners as well, and it is definitely, I would say, in the middle of both worlds of R&B and hip hop. So I'm excited.
Very cool. Is the record complete? Are you still working on it?
I finished making my album. Now it's just about like releasing singles and
Yeah. Very, very cool. Were you done with the record prior to like coronavirus happening?
Luckily, yes, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I've still been writing during this time, but like it was basically finished. But I just thought, you know what, like I might as well still use this time to be creative. You know, as an artist, I think you should always be making music, not like, okay, I've made my album now, let me just piss off.
Right. Put my feet up.
If you love music, you want to keep making music. And I think also as an artist, you should try and continue making music at all times, because that continues to remind you what it is you love about it. Because once you're in the business, I think it really becomes a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it becomes a business, and I think then you forget that, oh, I actually started doing this because I love making music and I'm interested in the music, not just like hits and views and traveling,
Right.
all of that. And yeah.
It's so especially now, because you can't go out and do all the luxury things like, shoot the video or do the videos and tour and all that. Now it's just, here's my record, I'm done, okay, we're gonna put these songs out. Like, did you think about waiting on it? I mean, this is your debut album and then everything happens and shuts down. Like, did you have a tour planned? And
Definitely, like this year I think would have been different for absolutely everybody.
mm-hmm.
Maybe Cardi B. I think she's had a phenomenal year.
You're right. It's just not affecting her.
No music whatsoever, but it's really shifted like most of our plans, I would say. And I think even like, honestly, kudos to people who have released music or albums during this time, because I think a lot of albums have really gone unrecognized just because we're not experiencing them in the way we usually would. Like for me, the way I digest and connect with music is like, let's say for instance, someone drops an album today, right? I'll listen to it while I'm getting ready to go out. I'll listen to it in the car on my way to that place. At that place, they'll probably play one of those songs
Right.
on the album, and it becomes a soundtrack to a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how like I connect with it and I remember it. And especially because like a lot of the songs we find out about, I think anyways, we find out about at parties, clubs, radio,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like if you're not traveling anywhere or going to the club or whatever, how do you hear this music? How do you appreciate it? How does it become a soundtrack? Like I don't need a soundtrack to me walking to the fridge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely delayed the release of the album because honestly, I just put so much work into it. I
Yeah.
put so much work and effort into it, and that was such an effort to make, as every person's album is, I'm sure. But like, I want to put it out in a time where I feel like it will have recognition and also let people digest it properly and be a soundtrack to something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is the plan to just slowly roll it out with singles, and then when's the full album coming out? Do you have a date?
So I don't have a date yet, but I would say before like the half of next year, first half of next year, let's say that.
Very
First
cool.
half of next year, it will be out. And I think now with how things are moving with the pandemic, I think it is likely that life will go maybe almost back to normal.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Exactly. Yeah. So I released the first single and I'm just excited to keep it out and hopefully get to actually meet fans and like perform songs and meet people like yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like I love like going into radio for interviews, flying out to do stuff like this. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully sooner than later we'll be able to do this conversation in person. Yeah. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So the record is done. How is it weird to promote it during this time? I mean, how are you promoting the songs?
For the songs, I've been doing like Zooms like this. I've been like radio, like our big shows out here, BBC, Radio 1 Extra, Radio 1, Capital Extra, all of that. So I've still been doing like Zooms and stuff. But now, more than ever, I feel like social media is what we have to push stuff. And as somebody who's the biggest fan of social media, it's a bit challenging, but you have to do what you have to do, really, right? So.
Yeah. Have you done any live stream stuff or?
Yeah, I've done live stream stuff. I did a Colours live stream. I did a performance for Colours, which was dope. I've been on IG Live, of course. Yeah, I've done some live performances. I did actually, we've got a big festival called Wireless Festival. I did that this year. They live streamed Wireless Festival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like, not immersive. What do they call it? VR. It was. Like,
yeah. Oh, wow. The whole thing was VR.
Yeah, it was really, really dope. Yeah.
So that is so dope.
Yeah, so there's still been like stuff going on, definitely.
With that, were you able to perform? You're not performing in your house, were you, or how did that work?
No, that was, so they took over Alexandra Palace, which is a huge performance venue, and made a stage and lights and everything. So I was like with my band. It was like a proper performance, and they had
cool.
Different cameras set up so people could get different angles. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for chatting with me today. I really, really appreciate it. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, I would say just get ready to work hard and hustle. And also just don't watch anyone else's race, you know, because I think if you look at the other person, if you turn your neck in the race to see how far they've gotten, you'll slow down. You'll forget that you're supposed to be running forward, or try and run how they're running and then mess up because you're not built the same. So I would just say, yeah, work hard. Like it's a grind. One thing I found out about this industry is that it's a non-stop grind. Like Beyonce still works freaking hard.
Oh yeah.
She still works bloody hard to maintain being Beyonce. So from the smallest act to the biggest act, it takes hard work and tenacity. It takes all of that. And so, yeah, keep your head up, stay focused, and just watch your own journey. Bringing it backward.